The 2025/2026 NBA season is almost here, and all eyes are once again on the Golden State Warriors. A franchise that defined dominance throughout the 2010s now stands at a crossroads, experienced, battle-tested, and carrying the weight of expectations, but also adapting to new realities. This year feels different, not just because Stephen Curry is still the beating heart of the roster, not just because Draymond Green continues to anchor the defense, but because the Warriors made one of the boldest moves of the offseason, bringing in Jimmy Butler. Add to that the development of Moses Moody and a reshaped supporting cast, and suddenly Golden State looks both familiar and refreshingly new. Part 1. The Core Players. 1. Stephen Curry, the Eternal Engine. At 37, Steph Curry remains the identity of Golden State basketball. His shooting gravity warps defenses like no other, forcing opponents to guard him 30 feet from the rim. The upcoming season will test how much fuel Curry still has in the tank, but make no mistake, when Curry is on the floor, Golden State believes they can beat anyone. His leadership, conditioning, and relentless work ethic continue to set the tone for the younger players. 2. Draymond Green, the defensive brain. Draymond's voice, IQ, and versatility define the Warriors' defense. While he may not be the same athlete he was in 2016, his ability to orchestrate switches, protect the paint, and guide teammates makes him irreplaceable. His chemistry with Curry still powers the famous pick and roll, and his playmaking from the top of the key ensures the offense flows. 3. Jimmy Butler, the new Warrior. Perhaps the biggest storyline, the arrival of Jimmy Butler. After years in Miami, Butler brings grit, toughness, and playoff resilience. The Warriors have often been labeled as finesse, relying on shooting and movement. Butler changes that narrative. He gives them a closer in crunch time, a physical wing defender, and a cultural spark. His ability to get to the free throw line balances Curry's perimeter attack. Questions remain about health and fit, but on paper, Butler might be the missing ingredient. 4. Moses Moody, the young X Factor. Moody represents the bridge to the future. Entering his prime years, he has shown flashes of being a reliable 3-and-D wing. With Klay Thompson no longer in the picture, Moody has a golden opportunity to establish himself as a core piece. His growth could determine whether Golden State is merely a playoff team or a true contender. Part 2. The Staff and Management. Steve Kerr, the architect. Still one of the most respected coaches in the league, Kerr has the challenge of reinventing the Warriors' identity without abandoning their DNA. Expect Kerr to experiment more, using Butler in isolation sets, staggering Curry's minutes to maximize efficiency, and blending veterans with youth. Assistant coaches. Names like Kenny Atkinson and Chris DeMarco will play huge roles in player development and TAC. Assistant coaches. Names like Kenny Atkinson and Chris DeMarco will play huge roles in player development and tactical adjustments. They know the system inside out and will be tasked with integrating Butler while unlocking Moody's potential. Joe Lacob and Mike Dunleavy Jr. Ownership and the front office have made bold moves before, and this year is no exception. Joe Lacob's ambition is clear. He wants another championship window. Mike Dunleavy Jr., the GM, orchestrated the Butler move, signaling that the Warriors are still all in. The message is clear. Golden State is not ready to fade quietly. Part 3. Strategy for the new season. 1. Offense. The Warriors will still rely on their trademark motion offense, ball movement, and spacing. But Butler introduces a new dimension, half-court scoring when plays break down. Expect Kerr to use more spread pick and rolls with Curry and Butler, while Moody spots up on the weak side. 2. Defense. With Draymond and Butler on the floor, Golden State has two vocal, physical defenders. The challenge will be rim protection, an area they've struggled with. A committee of Kevon Looney and younger bigs may be tested. 3. Rotation and depth. Golden State's depth has been questioned. Role players like Brandin Podziemski and Jonathan Kuminga, if retained, must step up. The Warriors' ability to rest stars while maintaining competitiveness could define the regular season. Part 4. The competition. Denver Nuggets. Nikola Jokic is still the most unstoppable force in basketball. Denver's continuity makes them the team to beat. Boston Celtics. Coming off a championship, Boston has the balance of defense and shooting. They will be a nightmare matchup. Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo, paired with Damian Lillard, still forms one of the most dangerous duos. Oklahoma City Thunder. The rising powerhouse led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren could surprise everyone. Dallas Mavericks, Minnesota Timberwolves, and Los Angeles Lakers all remain dangerous playoff opponents with superstar firepower. For Golden State, the challenge is clear: survive the West Gauntlet and prove they can still compete with younger, faster teams. Part 5: Expectations and Outlook. The 2025/2026 Warriors are not just running it back, they're reshaping their identity. They have Curry's shooting brilliance, Draymond's defensive genius, Butler's playoff toughness, Moody's youth and upside. If they stay healthy and the chemistry develops, Golden State could absolutely contend for another championship. If not, they may find themselves outpaced by younger rosters. But here's the truth: never underestimate the heart of a champion. The Warriors have been counted out before, and every time, they've found a way to silence critics. The upcoming season is a story of transition, resilience, and ambition. Golden State has reinvented itself before. And with Steve Kerr, Joe Lacob, and the leadership of Curry, Butler, and Green there, Golden State's front office has been operating with urgency this offseason. With Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler all aging but still competitive, there's a strong push to maximize the next couple of years. At the center of many rumors is the question: can they upgrade around the current core enough to contend again, or will they risk rerouting parts of their young core, especially Jonathan Kuminga, in ambitious trades? Giannis Antetokounmpo, the big dream move. One of the biggest names thrown into Warriors trade talk is Giannis Antetokounmpo. The idea of pairing him with Curry and Butler is tantalizing for many fans and analysts. Reports suggest the Warriors have long coveted Giannis, viewing him as the ultimate complement to an aging Curry: elite two-way size, dominant defensive presence, mismatch nightmare in the paint. However, insiders caution this is extremely unlikely in the near term. The Bucks reportedly are not entertaining offers, have made no indication Giannis has requested a trade saying to the Warriors or to any team. For Golden State to pull it off, they would need to include prime assets, Kuminga, draft picks, perhaps others, plus take on salary or undesirable contracts. And given their own payroll constraints, they may not have enough trade capital without seriously hurting depth. In short, Giannis remains a dream scenario more than a realistic one, unless something dramatic changes in the Bucks' internal situation or Giannis himself demands it. Josh Giddey and Al Horford, veteran targets plus roster balance. Another rumor track involves Josh Giddey and Al Horford. The Warriors are reportedly eyeing veteran frontcourt help to compensate for the wear and tear on Green, Butler, etc., and to bolster defensive rebounding, interior versatility, and locker room leadership. Al Horford, still a serviceable veteran big, is often mentioned. As for Giddey, his recent contract situation with the Bulls has thrown off balance across the league. His 4-year, $100 million deal in Chicago now serves as a benchmark for restricted free agents, including Kuminga. The Warriors may view Giddey as an ideal backcourt partner with Curry, someone who can handle creation duties, let Curry play off ball more, relieve some burden. But getting him may require creative structuring or sign-and-trade work. Jonathan Kuminga, key piece or trade asset? At the heart of many of these scenarios is Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga is a restricted free agent this offseason. The Warriors have reportedly offered a 2-year, $45 million contract with a team option for the second year. Kuminga's camp, however, desires a more lucrative and longer-term deal, one that gives him a bigger role, more touches, more offense. This holdout or negotiation impasse has ripple effects. It delays the Warriors in filling out their roster with veterans like Al Horford. It raises the question: if the Warriors think they might go after someone like Giannis or Giddey in a trade, Kuminga becomes part of the currency. He is one of their few young assets with upside that other franchises value. So is Kuminga likely to leave? The reports suggest the most probable outcome, for now, is that he will take the qualifying offer, which he is strongly considering, and stay with Golden State for the upcoming season. It gives him the chance to prove himself, and gives the Warriors flexibility. But if the opportunity arises, a sign-and trade could happen. Possible scenario maps. 1. Warriors go all-in for Giannis. They trade Kuminga, some draft picks, perhaps other young pieces and part of their salary cap. They move big pieces, maybe Draymond or others, to make space. The roster is retooled around Curry/Butler/Giannis for a short window. 2. Mid-tier upgrades plus internal development. Warriors decide Giannis isn't feasible, instead aim to sign veterans like Horford, retain Kuminga via qualifying offer or shorter deal, focus on depth, defensive rebounding, perimeter defense, etc. 3. Trade for Giddey plus send out Kuminga. A compromise. Bring in a younger guard who can share playmaking duties, use Kuminga as trade asset to make payroll and roster balance work. Assessing likelihood. The Giannis trade path is the least likely of those listed. Bucks seem reluctant to move him. Demands will be steep. Warriors would have to give up too much, and possibly sacrifice future flexibility. The Giddey plus veteran big route is more plausible. It depends on whether negotiations with Kuminga push them to find better alternatives and whether the Warriors can make contracts align. Kuminga staying under a qualifying offer seems like the baseline scenario, especially since no better long-term contract seems likely at this moment given the market and Warriors' cap situation. So, in summary, everything points to a jam-packed offseason filled with rumors, but the Warriors' most realistic path may be modest improvements rather than a blockbuster move like Giannis. Kuminga's contract standoff is central. Whether he stays, under what deal, or whether he becomes trade leverage, it likely decides how big or small Golden State's ambitions can be. Veterans like Al Horford may come in as auxiliary pieces. Giddey could be pursued, especially if bigger stories stall. But at this State Warriors, a franchise synonymous with dominance for over a decade, found themselves in unfamiliar territory. Once feared as the inevitable champions, they now looked vulnerable, caught between honoring the past and preparing for a future that seemed impatient to arrive. The Western Conference was shifting like desert sand. The Denver Nuggets had bolstered their rotation, finding balance between Nikola Jokic's brilliance and the next wave of role players. The Houston Rockets, long mocked as a rebuilding team, had made bold strides, pairing youthful explosiveness with seasoned veterans to become a genuine threat. The Clippers, once thought to be a fading experiment, had quietly pieced together a roster designed to grind out playoff wins. And while their rivals made moves, Golden State hesitated. The silence was telling. The franchise, always bold in its prime, now seemed paralyzed by a single storyline: Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga had been drafted as the future, raw talent molded by the Warriors' legendary core. His potential was undeniable, a slashing forward with size, athleticism, and a spark of star power. Yet potential had grown into frustration. His minutes under Steve Kerr never seemed consistent, his role never fully defined. And now, in restricted free agency, he stood at a crossroads. Would he take the Warriors' qualifying offer, a one-year, prove-it deal worth millions, or hold out for a long-term commitment? Every phone call, every conversation, every rumor in the Bay Area seemed to circle back to him. Until the Kuminga decision was resolved, the Warriors' front office couldn't act. And as time ticked toward training camp, Golden State was forced into a waiting game they had never been comfortable playing. Jonathan Kuminga was 22, but his presence carried the weight of a dynasty's future. Negotiations had dragged for months. Reports leaked that Golden State had floated a 2-year, $45 million contract, enough to lock him in while preserving flexibility. But Kuminga and his camp weren't satisfied. For him, it wasn't about numbers, it was about trust, opportunity, and identity. The Warriors knew this well. Day after day, media speculation painted the picture: the team's championship core versus the player who wanted more than the bench role he had often been relegated to. Kerr had never promised him starting minutes, and everyone knew rotations were earned, not gifted. But Kuminga wanted proof that the franchise saw him as more than trade bait. Meanwhile, whispers of sign-and-trade scenarios emerged. Could the Warriors package him for another veteran? Could they pivot toward players who would better complement Curry and Butler? Nothing materialized. The offers weren't enough. And so, the stalemate deepened. Fans grew restless. On sports radio, callers debated endlessly. Was Kuminga being selfish, or was the front office refusing to evolve? On social media, every leaked report sparked firestorms. Let him walk. Trade him now. Play him and watch him shine. The discourse was constant, unrelenting, emotional. By mid-September, the picture was clearer. Unless something dramatic shifted, Kuminga would accept the qualifying offer. It meant one more year in Golden State, but also one more year of tension, one more year of questions about whether he truly belonged in the Bay. While the Kuminga saga dragged, other pieces quietly moved into place. Free agents circled the Warriors, waiting for the right call. Al Horford, now deep into the twilight of his career, offered veteran leadership, championship experience, and a steady locker room presence. D'Anthony Melton and Gary Payton II represented defensive toughness, exactly the kind of role players Golden State had always thrived on. But the more intriguing names were Jeremiah Robinson Earl and Dalano Banton. Both four-year veterans, both journeymen fighting for survival in a league that often discards talent too quickly. They worked out at Chase Center, sweating through drills, scrimmaging in half-empty gyms, hoping to earn Exhibit 10 contracts that could springboard them into a roster spot. For them, the Warriors represented opportunity, not just a chance at playing time, but at relevance. Golden State's system had made careers before. To wear that jersey, even in preseason, meant visibility, credibility, and perhaps a second chance. Inside the locker room, the vibe was complicated. Veterans welcomed the competition, but everyone felt the uncertainty. The roster wasn't complete. Decisions weren't finalized. Every drill carried unspoken tension. And in the background, Steve Kerr remained calm, his voice steady, reminding everyone that training camp was about foundation, about rediscovering the habits that had built a dynasty. If the roster was unsettled, the soul of the Warriors remained intact. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler, three names that defined different eras of basketball, now aligned in the same jersey. Curry was the constant. At 37, he still moved with the grace of a player untouched by time. His jumper remained the most feared weapon in the sport, and his leadership had evolved into quiet steadiness. No longer just a magician on the court, he was the voice of patience in the locker room, the one who reminded teammates that chaos was temporary. Draymond Green remained the heartbeat, the enforcer, the mind that saw plays before they unfolded. His fire hadn't dimmed, though age had forced him to conserve it wisely. He spoke less but with more precision. When he did, the room listened. His bond with Curry was unbreakable, forged through battles that had redefined basketball. Jimmy Butler was the new piece, but he wasn't new to pressure. After a full off-season with Golden State, he was ready to integrate fully. His voice added edge, his workouts set tone, and his belief in toughness mirrored the Warriors' identity. For a franchise often criticized for finesse, Butler brought grit. His presence in practice forced everyone to compete harder. Together, the three represented a blend of past, present, and future. They weren't the Splash Brothers of old. They weren't the small ball revolution anymore. But they were still dangerous, still capable, still unwilling to fade quietly. As camp approached, the outside noise grew louder. The media painted the Warriors as a team stuck between eras, too experienced to rebuild, too unsettled to dominate. Analysts debated whether they were contenders or pretenders. Some claimed the dynasty was already over. Others argued that as long as Curry laced his sneakers, Golden State could never be dismissed. Inside the Bay, fans wrestled with mixed emotions. Chase Center filled with banners of past glory, but the present demanded new memories. Social feeds flooded with highlight reels of Curry's past brilliance, reminders of what he had done, and whispers of what he still could do. The spotlight wasn't just on stars, though. Moses Moody, Brandin Podziemski, Buddy Hield, Quinton Post, these names mattered too. They were the connective tissue, the role players who would determine whether Golden State could withstand an 82-game grind. And through it all, Kuminga's shadow loomed. Would he embrace the role he was given? Would he force his way into a starting spot? Or would the friction between him and Kerr define yet another season of frustration? The uncertainty was storyline enough to keep the league watching. As the calendar flipped toward October, the Warriors faced the truth. This season wasn't just another campaign. It was a referendum. A referendum on their ability to adapt, on their willingness to trust youth, and on the durability of a dynasty that had already rewritten history. If Kuminga played with purpose, the Warriors might rediscover balance. If Butler meshed perfectly, Golden State could strike fear again.